Animation is a beloved genre for many families. It allows children to embark on colorful adventures, and if done right, offers some quality moments for both the kids and the parents. Animated films often stick sly adult jokes into their films for the parents, but what happens when the kids catch on? Awkwardness ensues. Before we start, give this video a big thumbs up and click the subscribe button to get more sweet content from Screen Rant. But first, can you guess the hit animated feature based off of these emojis? Let us know in the comments below.
And Cottontail.
Zootopia. Let's get it out of the way. Zootopia was one of the best Disney films made in years. It offered a touching and often quite grown-up tale which followed Judy's quest to become a police officer in the wacky animal-filled city. This Oscar winner also had some awkward sly references in it. From Breaking Bad references to The Godfather, the film is littered with moments that adults will only get and be squirming in their seats. But that's just the pop culture stuff. Disney went full awkward in one scene as well. At one moment in the film, Judy is informing her companion Nick of all the additions she's had to undertake for her menial job in the Force. This is perhaps one of the more in-your-face jokes Disney has done.
I mean, I am just a dumb bunny, but we are good at multiplying. Anyway,
Disney just went there. Any kid watching this scene who caught this joke will have naturally asked their parents the hilarious and age-old question, where do babies come from? And parents certainly didn't want to be forced to have that conversation before they wanted to, thanks to a Disney movie with talking animals. Ratatouille. While younger kids may not get all the sly references in animated films, once kids get to that awkward age where they start getting things but are still a child, it's all over for everyone in the room. That likely happened for some families when they all sat together to watch the hit Pixar film Ratatouille. What could possibly be awkward about a movie that features the culinary arts and talking animals? Not much, except for one hysterical moment involving the human characters. When the human protagonist Linguini is confessing a secret to Colette, he naturally has a hard time finding the right words to describe his unique situation. As he stumbles for words, he states he has
this tiny, little...
While Colette, perhaps a little disturbed as well as confused, takes a brief peek below Linguini's belt. You know, just to check. It's an extremely not so subtle play on Pixar's part, but once you make the connection as to the importance of the glance, we're sure that many kids awkwardly looked away from the movie for a few seconds to pretend that they didn't quite understand the reference. Looking back at the moment is always worth a great laugh, though.
I'd like to join your posse, boys, but first I'm gonna sing a little song.
Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 gets the honor of having two raunchy moments in their film that would have certainly raised some eyebrows for parents and possibly made kids feel a little weird. The first incident was when Barbie met Ken for the first time. It was a long time coming, and these two toys hit it off right from the get-go, with Barbie telling Ken that she loves his ascot, an obvious reference to both loving that booty as well as loving Ken's fashion sense. The next moment came from the Potato Heads, and it's a lot raunchier once you're old enough to get it. Lotso, the villainous pink bear from the film, steals Mrs. Potato Head's lips, thus preventing her from talking back to him. Furious, Mr. Potato Head yells,
"Hey, no one takes my wife's mouth, except me."
What kids heard on this one and what adults understood here are two very, very different things. Any future family viewing experiences are likely tainted now, or at the very least, cause an awkward laugh to be shared. Leave it to Pixar to toss adult humor into their movies. The Incredibles. The Incredibles was one seriously fun time at the movies, and the 2018 sequel is high on our list of most anticipated films. Extremely anticipated since it's been a decade since the original. As we wait for that film to fly into theaters, we look back at the awesomeness that was the first film and all the wackiness that went down in it. We all know about that flexibility joke that Elastic tells Mr. Incredible.
flexible.
But was there anything else that might be awkward? Turns out there was. In one scene in the movie, Mr. Incredible is being sued for saving people that didn't want to be saved. If you pay attention to one of the headlines, it clearly states X-ray vision peeping Tom. Yeah, we can see why this guy was getting sued. The sad bit is that any superhero in real life that would have X-ray vision would totally use it inappropriately. People these days, huh? While the term may not be common knowledge to a lot of kids, any parent who's suddenly forced to answer that question may feel their cheeks starting to turn red, resulting in the desire to have superhero powers to either distract one's child or to flee the scene in breakneck speeds. Tangled. Okay, so this one actually isn't in the movie itself, but it was right there in the promotional posters for the movie. So we're gonna say it counts since many of us saw the posters at cinemas or advertised all over town leading up to the film's release in 2010. The poster in question sees Rapunzel tying up Flynn with her hair, perhaps to make sure he doesn't run away or anything, while his trusty horse companion Maximus glares across to his captured friend and the chameleon Pascal. Or perhaps there was another reason why Flynn was all tied up. What you might not see though is the clever and hidden message that's hidden in plain sight. Using the knots in her hair, the animators slipped in another instance of having a sexy word appear in the marketing material. It's really subtle, but once it's pointed out, it's actually pretty unmissable, to the point where it's more noticeable than a similar moment in the classic film The Lion King. Did you ever catch this adult moment in the Tangled poster? Ever pointed out to anyone else? Let us know in the comments. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Remember this hit Disney film? We bet you do, but perhaps the details are a bit fuzzy as it doesn't have the same cultural impact as, say, The Lion King or Toy Story. Regardless if you do remember the movie or not, you might recall turning a bit red if you watched it with your parents at a young age. Atlantis was a pretty fun, light-hearted film which saw the adventurer Milo embark on a quest to find the lost city of Atlantis, something we all wish we'll get to see in our own lifetime. He comes home one stormy evening to discover a woman waiting for him at his apartment. Cue the steamy jazz music. This is Helga, and boy does she ever flaunt it. When asked how she got into Milo's home, she merely replies she came down the chimney and loosens up her overcoat to become a bit more revealing. To make matters worse, her strap decides to roll away. The scene is perhaps flirtier and more suggestive than we remember, plus the use of the jazz music makes this one perhaps more awkward for the parents than the kids.
Surrender, Buzz Lightyear. I have won.
I'll never give in. You killed my father.
No, Buzz. I am your father.
Toy Story 2. The Toy Story franchise is littered with sly and potentially awkward moments for the whole family. Pixar constantly inserts little references into their films. This will definitely cause some uncomfortable conversations at the dinner table if a child were to ask what the meaning behind a certain joke meant. Toy Story 2 is no exception to this, having some hilarious moments that may be a bit more awkward for the younger mind. One such moment comes towards the end of the film, in what has to be one of the funniest moments in Pixar's history. Newly inducted into Andy's collection, the cowgirl Jessie takes it upon herself to get Andy's puppy out of the room in order to relieve himself. In a callback to the first film, she surfs the car down the track and jumps in the air, landing on the doorknob in order to free Buster. The thing is, she totally one-upped Buzz, and he was impressed, perhaps too impressed, as his wings popped out on their own, standing at full attention, so to speak, in his excitement. If you don't get that, then you're still too young. Here's hoping we get more clever moments like this in Toy Story 4 in 2019. Inside Out. Inside Out will go down as one of Pixar's all-time classic films. Winning the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, the film perfectly illustrated what goes on in our bodies when it comes to our conflicting and often confusing emotions. The film not only had to tackle with the challenge of showcasing these emotions, but also had to show what happens to the human who plays host to these emotions and how growing up affects her. Early on in the movie, Riley and her family make the big move over to San Francisco, which causes Anger to comment at one point that a large hairy guy they saw earlier in the day looked an awful lot like a bear. While this joke may seem quite an innocent one at first, it's actually a pretty grown-up joke that's sure to get a laugh with families a few years down the road once some kids have grown up. The San Francisco area is known for having a very large and thriving gay community. The term bear is a slang term used for such a man who has a large amount of body hair. It's another shining example of how Pixar were able to sneak something in for the adults that the kids might not get right away, but they're sure to crack up once they realize their favorite films weren't as squeaky clean as they initially thought. Cars. Cars 3 is revving up for the big screen, and we're pretty pumped for it. The trailers look promising, and certainly have piqued our interest. The original Cars may not be a fan favorite from Pixar, but that doesn't mean the film wasn't without its moment. In fact, it had one moment that may cause some families to awkwardly chuckle once the penny drops. In the film, lead car Lightning McQueen is one heck of a popular racer, so much so that he has a legion of fans. Two such fans are really into Lightning by the looks of it, as they flick their headlights on and off at Lightning as he passes them by. While it may not be obvious at first, the two lady cars are actually flashing, get it? Lightning as he walks by. It's a clever use of repurposing a situation on Pixar's part, allowing them to sneak in a clever and very grown-up moment into their family-friendly movie. We can imagine, though, that once kids connected the dots and told their parents what it meant, there were some awkward glances at the dinner table. Time will tell if there's similar humor in Cars 3 once it hits theaters. Despicable Me 2. Gru is coming back to cinemas too, and he's bringing the Minions with him. We're sure the film will be a big hit with families all over the world, with its fun story, wacky characters, and silly humor. But we can't shake the fact that there was some eyebrow-raising content in the series. Take Despicable Me 2, for example. At one point in the film, the Minions end up having an ice cream party and end up getting seriously smashed under the influence of the wonderful dairy product. It was already pretty funny and weird seeing the Minions go all out on their party, but anyone who's keeping an eye out on the whole frame will definitely notice some other shenanigans going on. To the top left of the frame in one shot, we clearly see that a Minion is working up some serious dance moves on a pole. Yep, That's right, not too sure about you, but if any kid were to ask me what that minion was doing dancing on a pole, I'd proceed to freak out and find some illogical explanation. The minions would also get a little suggestive in their own movie by flashing a man when they were trying to sneak into the Tower of London. Did you ever watch an animated film with your family and find a particular scene to be awkward? What scene was it? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And of course, the answer to our emoji trivia question is... thanks for playing.